Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast. On today's show, we're pleased to have Todd Smith. He's the CEO and founder of 360 Converge. Todd, welcome to the show.
Great, Brian. Thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to our discussion.
Great. So, Todd, for those listening today who are not familiar with your career in automotive, give us a little thumbnail, how long you've been in the business, and what are some of the things you've done?
Wow. Over 30 years I've been in automotive. I started washing cars. Both my neighbors were big auto dealers, so I worked with their kids in the business. I started selling cars when I was 18, then managing a store and then multiple stores. I then switched I saw the internet coming about in the mid 90s, and I thought that was a huge potential opportunity. So I wrote the first manual about how we would sell cars online, called Automotive Retailing on the Internet. Still have a copy of it today. Consulted for a lot of big manufacturers and dealer groups on the birth of the internet, and that got me into helping build up Dealer Ups, which was a CRM company in the early 2000s. Sold that. I went back into retail because that's where my chops always were, a New Jersey Chevrolet dealership. That was an owner partner. And then left there, formed Active Engage, which was the first managed live chat provider for automotive. And after 12 years, it was time to, again, roll up my entrepreneurial sleeves and do something different. So I went back to an area in our business where I felt needs the biggest help to help dealers connect with their shoppers.
And, I couldn't agree with you more that the CRM is still, in 2020, a challenge, a mess in many cases. I think dealers and BDC managers who are listening on today's show would agree that today's CRM functionality has not kept up with the needs in the market. But to tell you the truth, I learned some things about you today. I never knew that you ran stores. So this is super exciting and relevant to our conversation because having authored the first kind of internet sales playbook and working and managing stores, you know how important the CRM is. So Todd, out of all of the, venues or opportunities you could have chosen, you chose what I think is probably the hardest outside of building a DMS. I think the second thing is building a CRM. Why did you decide to tackle such a big project?
Great question. I will say first and foremost, I agree with you 100% that DMS, I looked at and said there's no way that I would want to take on that battlefront, mostly because of the fixed ops side, parts, the OEM relationships with the existing DMS providers. So after that, I looked at what could make the biggest impact for dealers. And it kept coming back to managing your gold mine, and that's your customers. And I don't feel the current CRM ecospace does a good job of that. I feel they rely on third-party marketing companies to extract the data from the CRM and go off and do marketing, and that data never finds its way back to a singular home. And I felt that was the premise of it all, was could I reinvent a single evergreen customer data management platform?
Wow, I know exactly what you're referring to. Dealers who have thousands of records in their CRM oftentimes are exporting these to do a Facebook custom match or a Google customer match to do some marketing or retargeting. And of course, the results of those campaigns are never, ever updated back to the CRM. So we definitely have data silos. How are you describing then this product, which the company is called 360 Converge? I'm not sure that it would be easy to explain what this vision is to dealers. In a nutshell, what's your elevator pitch to a general manager?
Right. Good point. I did put it under the CRM space because it is around customer relationship management. But if you peel back a layer of that onion, it really comes down to a data management platform first. And with that in mind, an open API structure that you could connect our services to any provider to allow data to flow back and forth, because you need an original look at any customer and you want to know everything they've touched, whether it's they've seen an ad on Facebook of you, you send them an email, they opened it, they've watched 2 of your YouTube videos, they've visited your website. You know, to me, to have that holistic 360 view is the most important thing as a dealer today. We can have and understand, because if we can understand our customers, we can market to them better and we can increase our results.
So let's break it apart in pieces. So the core of the product is a CRM. So when somebody fills out a lead, let's just say a brand new customer, the dealer's never had any business. The dealer's website provider would use ADF XML and send this lead into your CRM product. Is that foundationally still structurally how it works?
Unfortunately, yes, that is still the foundation of the old school XML ADF, which to me is a garden hose of data compared to what would be potentially possible through an API or a webhook or JSON data call. There's so much more robust data, as you know, that rides in the back that never finds its way down into a CRM. So that is correct, though. First thing is data has to come into our system, and then we enhance, enrich that data with, we have right now over 200 plus data points on every adult in America. It's 300 million people. So we add additional phone numbers, email addresses, social media handles, home addresses, work addresses, what they do, what their household profile looks like, habits, hobbies, things like that, that to me are all powerful bits to have better conversations. Because as a salesperson, you realize that a great conversation starts with trust, and it starts with, to me, a reference point beyond the car. We have to build value in it, building a relationship with someone as an individual before we try to sell the product.
And I agree with you. And in the past, this is some of the information that dealers have asked for. I've heard varying opinions, though, Todd. I'd love to hear your thought process. And I hate when people dumb down the employees or the competency level of employees, whether it's in the BDC or sales. Here's what I hear. Brian, I can't give my salesperson all that information. They have no idea how to use it, and I don't want to creep out the customer. What's your response? Lead comes in. You've given the salesperson a much better starting point for that first point of contact. You can create a better relevant message. You and I see that. But what do you say to the naysayers that say, man, you give my salespeople too much information, they're going to screw it up?
Absolutely. That's interesting philosophy. First, you would have to then question the quality of the salespeople you're hiring. You do want to hire competent people that are smart enough to be reactive, use the information that's at hand to have better conversations. We have limited what we actually expose to salespeople because of this. We don't expose all the attributes we have. Our first goals were, 1, increase connectivity. So that is exposing, let's say you get a typical lead in and it only has an email and a name. So if we can append phone numbers, an alternate email, their social media handles, that's a great start to help the salesperson increase connectivity. If we can do that, then we can continue to build and through time expose the salespeople to more data to make a more enriched conversation.
So we have a CRM now that is enhancing data, which we love. And, going back to the ADF XML for dealers or general managers who just take that for granted, one of the biggest problems is that each website company can determine what additional information they send. And in many times, they're not sending how the person came to the website, like which campaign and medium. Was it a Facebook ad? Was it a Google organic search? Was it a referral from AutoTrader or Cars.com? We're not typically sending what cars did they look at, how long did they stay on the site. And of course, this would be amazing information to pump into a CRM. Todd, talk to me about a website company who's listening to this podcast that says, well, our problem is the CRM companies don't want to provide us with the data fields to put all that rich information. Does the 360 Converge CRM have the ability for a Dealer Inspire, a Dealer eProcess, a Dealer.com, whoever, to accommodate a better partnership where if they sent a more robust record, you can ingest it?
Absolutely. That's the core of what we are doing. We know that for us, if you remember the old saying at Salesforce, software will eat the world. And we believe the next phase of this is really data will eat the world. And for us, we wanted to be able to onboard as much data as possible. And then using machine learning to understand the data, to segment the data, and then offer up easy tools for the dealership to use however they see fit. Our goal is never to build let's say, email marketing engine. It's easier to connect to a really great product like a MailChimp, a Constant Contact, a HubSpot, whatever the dealer wants to use. We wanted to give that level of autonomy. Our goal was to really help control the data. And to do that, you can use things like cookie matching, browser activity tracking, reverse IP identification, and then you use what's called more data onboarding and contextual targeting.
Great. Well, listen, I want to challenge anyone who is a senior executive of a website company. Let me tell you one thing. If you told dealers that you were going to partner with 360 Converge and you were going to send the shopper session data along with the lead record, I think you would find that your clients would not only go crazy excited, but it would create a more efficient ecosystem for your team to look what the customer did. Hey, they were on your website for 5 minutes. They looked at these cars. They checked incentives. They used the KBB trade-in tool, and then they submitted a lead. I would want that data. So for website companies, listen to what Todd is saying, an open API CRM where you could actually pass this data. This is an opportunity for a breakthrough moment. Let's get back to your product, Todd. You mentioned keeping a unified record within the CRM. And so let's talk about next steps. The lead comes in, you do some data matching, the dealer starts to reach out and communicate with the customer. But there are a number of customers who don't respond, right? They maybe requested some information. The dealer sent the information. This is a common problem with CRM. And the BDC or the salespeople are frustrated. You mentioned marketing automation as well. So if a dealer had received 500 customers, leads this month, they spoke to or engaged with 250, and there's 250 that just didn't respond, so they might call them ghosts. Do you have automatic feeds that a dealer could launch a Facebook campaign or a Google customer match campaign, or are you just feeding the data into an approved set of partners or agencies? How does that marketing data to marketing execution work in your ecosystem?
Absolutely. We think there's already great best-in-class products. Why build it? We looked at the CRM space as a very much jack of all trades, master of none, and it's a checkbox business. We have email, we have video, we have texting in the CRM. We have all these things, right? And the problem is none of it works very good and it doesn't communicate cohesively. So for us, we felt there's far better people doing a lot of those things. So our system is designed to onboard all the data coming in to normalize it, to find the enriched data against it. Then you can segment that data and you can send it wherever you want. Since it's all API driven, if they wanted to use you, Brian, to do all their Google, you could go in and create hey, I want to target all people who looked at Tahoes in the last 30 days, who live in these zip codes, who are married, own homes, and have children in the household with this offer. We also see a future where you can even do marketing dependent on weather, because one of the things we track is salespeople's performance based on weather as well, because that impacts things, right? When it snows, odds are you're probably not going to sell very many cars, and it's going to affect your overall goal for number of units for the month. So you'll have to make those adjustments. So again, our goal was all around data, and then using the data with machine learning to understand it and gain insights that we could then use to do marketing or just better communication with individual shoppers, more personalized.
Todd, before we move on to other features with the software, I want to go back and talk about the email marketing piece of 360 Converge. Some of the listeners may have missed something, but I heard it. As a student of the industry, I've been studying the problems with CRMs and that they have a hard time delivering emails. If dealers knew how dirty some of their email servers were because they're shared with other dealers, they would be shocked. And so I heard that dealers could use MailChimp, Constant Contact, Salesforce email, whitelisted, robust email delivery services. So let me ask a question so we can clarify it. When we talk about email communication with customers one-on-one versus email campaigns where we want to send out 1,000 or 2,000 emails, who's doing the email communication? Is 360 Converge doing the one-on-one and email campaigns through someone else? Let's clarify that.
Absolutely. That's exactly it, Brian. So we knew the one-on-ones we could control and keep that whitelisted to ensure deliverability. We could look and analyze the email. We could say, hey, this is most likely going to wind up in spam. We could analyze it on a one-to-one. That's very simple. And that's what we wanted to focus on, was deliverability. Then we said, well, dealers love to send out tons of emails, and I appreciate that. But with that being said, they'll go back into old data that hasn't been updated and cleaned and drop a 10,000 piece email blast, and that's how you get blacklisted. So to prevent that, we said, okay, if they're going to do broadcast marketing, there's already amazing tools in the market, the MailChimps, Constant Contacts, you name them, there's tons of them. Let the dealership pick whatever one they want to use, or they could switch. We'll just provide the connectivity to those platforms. If it's one-to-one, it's still internal in our system because we want to manage, did the customer open the email? When did they open it? When was the last time? We want to understand deliverability just in a one-to-one format. So if it's one-to-one, we're doing it because that's part of our understanding of omnichannel communication and making sure we're measuring all the touch points between the consumer and the salesperson, no matter what channel. And any type of bulk marketing, that gets moved off to what we consider best-in-class services.
Man, if dealers only understood how important that feature is. So congratulations for thinking about that, because email delivery is a huge problem that no one really talks about. Todd, I'm going to talk one other thing, and maybe it's in the product. We didn't talk about this prior to our interview today, but my biggest complaint is that CRMs fail to provide dealers with how much traffic the actual emails are driving to their website. And the reason is because any hyperlink in most email templates or in a ad hoc message to a consumer where the salesperson drops in a URL is untagged. So if the consumer opens up the email on their mobile phone, which many do, and click the link, it comes into Google Analytics as direct. We know it's not direct. It's amazing that some dealers never even picked up that when they look at their traffic channels, they have no email traffic, yet they know they're sending out thousands of emails through their CRM each month. Todd, is it possible in your software as a future update that if a salesperson drops in a link, that you can automatically append, source equals CRM and medium equals email, so these visits back to the dealer's website could be seen?
Yes, we even took it one step further to give you more clarification on that. I felt that a lot of times with dealerships, salespeople were sending people back to the generic website. Unfortunately, that's a good place to get lost. It's not narrowing the consumer's focus. It's usually broadening it up. And you could hit a chat and then chat with somebody else. You call the 800 number. It doesn't connect you directly with the salesperson. And I felt there was a lot of broken process in that experience. So what we built was we have all the inventory in our system, obviously, in our CRM. So when I go to text you or email you a car, it creates our own VDP that all the links go right back to the salesperson. So if you hit call, it calls the salesperson's phone. If you email back, it emails him back directly. If you text him, it goes right back to him. So our goal there was to start closing the loop and let a relationship develop and just repurpose the content that already exists and put it into an ecosystem that's more of a closed loop between the salesperson and the customer, if that makes sense.
No, I love it, because obviously the salesperson would want to try to control the experience. And obviously if a consumer's just saying, hey, do you have a car in stock? And the salesperson says, yeah, here it is, I'm going to send it to you. I love that one-on-one communication. And then when there's times when an email template or a kind of, let me try to rejuvenate some of these old leads, when the link goes to the dealer's website, it would be great to make sure those are auto tagged, because what dealers are missing in their CRM, and not just the total vision of lack of consistent data and unified data, but they're not focusing on deliverability, they're not measuring two-way communication, and they're not measuring how many people actually engage with the emails. So they don't know which template's working, they don't know which strategy is working. And what I'm hearing is that by controlling all this data and this ecosystem, dealers can get a much better picture of how consumers in their local market engage with marketing and the sales team.
Yeah, so we have it so granularly driven today where you can see how many text messages went back and forth with an individual customer, how many emails went back and forth. You can see how many phone calls went back and forth. You can see everything in one view, and you can drill into the actual conversations, whether you wanted to read the text messages, read the email, which we took all the headers and footers off, so it almost looks like text, because we felt the core messaging was most important, that we could put that on machine learning to get sentiment analysis to ultimately then start helping coach the salesperson what to do next in the relationship.
So Todd, for general managers, dealer principals, BDC managers listening, we've spent a lot of time on the data elements, but the practical reality is that you have a BDC manager for a reason, because there are tasks assigned or workflows designed, and people aren't following up with leads. And so let's talk about two separate conversations. Number one, new CRMs historically have been very light on management reporting or accountability reporting, where a sales manager can look at their team and see how well their sales associates are engaging with customers. How have you kind of looked at that problem of accountability and a manager's dashboard within 360 Converge?
It's a really good question. I think for us, part of it was flipping the script. I believe CRMs since the early 2000s till about now have mostly been built to be task managers and management whipping tools for salespeople. And I think because of that, salespeople don't like to use it, which creates a data corruption issue, meaning a lot of data doesn't get into the CRMs. because a lot of salespeople maybe are calling from their personal devices or texting from their personal devices, and they're bypassing. I've talked to enough dealers and top salespeople that they're like, oh, I don't like the CRM. It slows down my process. So for us, it was a mental switch first. And I said, let's build a product that salespeople love and want to use because it helps them do what they're already trying to do. And if we accomplish that, it makes everything up funnel work better. Instead of trying to go from the top management controlling down, build a product from the ground up that the actual users love to use because it helps them make more money. It helps them create a better experience with the customer, that they get a better review. That's our focus at 360. From a, let's say, process, it's really focusing on connecting the salesperson and giving him the tools that he needs to have better conversations. Like one of the things we're working on now is the ability when a customer sends an email or text and goes, well, I don't know if I want the, Toyota Camry or the Honda Accord. To instantly be able to hit a button and send the customer a side-by-side comparison showing your product over their product, that's huge value add. Now, most salespeople will never take the time to do that. So that's one of these things we said, let's just build these types of tools into the system that gives that salesperson the value to use a product. And then all the data will report up correct.
Wow. I love the approach. I definitely know that today's dealer is looking for ways to maximize the sales opportunities they have by minimizing the labor costs and obviously having some of these built-in tools that can, in a sense, auto-populate or suggest. There are a number of products, Todd, and you're aware of them, that use AI to automate the communication. Products like Conversica say to dealers, hey, when someone submits a lead, your email server is dirty. Let us engage with the consumer, get them to respond, and then put workforce management behind it. Is there any automation like that in the tool? Meaning, as nice as your explanation was, there are some managers listening to today's podcast to say, Todd, listen, sounds great. I got 30% of my workforce that won't use it. I know that they're not responding to leads. What do I do, Todd, to make sure that despite their laziness, that the customer is going to get followed up with? Is there any automation that if a customer doesn't receive a response within a normal time frame, either something kicks on or it escalates? Because we can say just fire people, but there's a lot of emotions and politics along with that. How have you solved for the cases where the data is saying the customer is still waiting for a response?
Right. Again, great question. I feel we haven't solved that yet. That will be an evolving piece of understanding, because for us, to make machine learning work, I'm not a big believer. AI doesn't exist to me in how I think it's promoted in our industry. I believe we're still in it's machine learning. It's can I analyze data and get outputs to help make better decisions, right? And you need at scale data to do that. And we just don't have at scale data yet to be able to really effectively do that. Now, I can say that a couple of the low-hanging opportunities that we addressed right away was appointment setting. So we automated that. So in our system, you basically just hit a button and it'll send the customer your calendar as a salesperson. Customer can pick when they want to come in based on the hours you're there and appointments you already have set. So it looks at this calendar, that an internal one we have built, and the customer then can pick when they want to come in, and it instantly shows back up in the CRM. And we did that first because it empowered the customer, and it also made it easy for the salesperson. And instead of wasting, Brian, when do you want to come in? Well, I want to come in this weekend. Well, I only work Saturday. And you go, well, Saturday's not convenient unless nighttime. Well, what time at night? Because I'm only here till 5. And that's, to me, that's a bad interaction that shouldn't be happening in today's world. So there's automated calendaring type tools out there. So we just took a lesson out of their playbook, to be honest. And
I love that.
I felt that was a first big step into making sure we set appointments. And now we set appointments. Most salespeople forget that, hey, I have an appointment coming in. So the system pops up and says, hey, Brian's showing up in the next 30 minutes. Like, go get the car, buddy. Make sure it's out front and gassed up. And then you got the other side. You got to remind the customer, right? Hey, you have an appointment today. Is that still good with you? And you hit yes. And it's like, cool, click this and here's driving directions to the store. And maybe we'll deliver, hey, here's one cool thing about the car you're about to drive. I don't know. Like, I feel like we'll continue to explore that and see what will work to really get the highest level of throughput, right? Another thing I felt which we could automate quickly were obviously the ones that, as you said, start ghosting, right? So the ones that ghost after, X number of days, you want to feed them into a more automated marketing thing, because I believe one thing that our industry doesn't have, which we do want to bring to it, is really strong pipeline management, which you see awesome in B2B software. Like, if you go and look at a lot of the B2B tools, there's a lot of valuable lessons there. And the first one we gathered out of it was really managing, as a salesperson, my flow of leads visually to know where they're at in what stage. And some will automatically move between stages because it's automation and machine learning. Others, you'll manually have to move the card to the next bucket. I wanted to use a system like that because it allows us, as our human nature, to have wins. It's awesome to move someone to hey, this is an appointment confirmed bucket, right? Or this is an appointment that just showed up bucket. I think there's value in that. And I think we need to create systems that help salespeople through positive reinforcement.
Got it. Well, I know that the appointment setting culture is so important. You can't hit store goals unless appointments are set. So any tools that would help facilitate a wow first experience when someone's interested in coming in, I love it. Todd, as we wrap up our conversation today, there's so much to talk about, but I'm sure there's some general managers, sales managers, BDC managers that are asking, Todd, if I switch to your platform, what can I expect? I think that's a reasonable question. If I'm going to go through the pain of changing CRM, do you have anything to share as far as contact rate, engagement rate, appointments? What have you seen that you could share with our listeners that would get them excited that this is worth the switch?
That's a really good question. I feel that, we're still a baby company in the sense that we need more time. Developing a CRM, as you know and pointed out from the beginning, is the second largest undertaking you're ever going to get. We built a quick Chrome extension product called 360 Insight, which just absorbs all your incoming leads and enhances them and does activity monitoring behind it, and it integrates with any product you already have. I feel that's an easier first step because a lot of dealers, they're on longer term contracts with their CRM. They have to have more confidence in, being able to switch providers, and that they're a much longer conversation. So I felt that was one of the reasons we created this kind of sub product to just help dealers expose them to 360 instantly and get some really big benefit, which is, to me, increasing contact rate and understanding the activity that surrounds, as you said, their website and email, because we put trackers on both using pixels. And the interesting thing I always found was, if you have two leads in your system, one lead, let's say, was an email lead from Todd 45 days ago that says, you need to call Todd today. And the other one was a phone call from Brian 4 days ago. As a salesperson, who are you going to pick up the phone and call? And I think everyone on the end of this podcast would say, well, I'm calling Brian and I'm going to leave Todd alone because that's old and stale. But what happens if data gave you a different picture and said that, well, Todd was on the website this morning looking, and he looked at 4 Tundra trucks. while Brian from 4 days ago called has been dark and is totally silent across the web. Now who would you call? And I think for us, it's exposing dealers to that first, and then let our product build into doing all the things that they're going to need to be able to do. That makes sense.
Well, I'm excited for this project because dealers have only a few choices. And most of the time I hear that they're trying to have modern conversations, whether someone wants to use WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, whether they want to text or chat, whether they want to do email or phone, and that, well, having a unified record of all these conversations is extremely difficult, let alone using that data to create more automated marketing. And I love the fact that you took a data-centric approach. Again, I want to remind the vendor community that Todd is telling you that he has an open system that would allow your products to integrate better into the back end. So that obviously would be chat companies that are on dealer websites, the dealer website companies themselves, the trade tools. I mean, if you want your product to be part of a robust data record that a data driven marketing strategy could be driven by, what I'm hearing for Todd is let's do it and let's innovate. So I'm super excited about that opportunity. I've been talking about it for a very, very long time. Todd, if somebody wanted more information, a demo, where would they go online?
Our website, 360converge.com, or you can email me. It's just Todd, Todd, at 360converge. I really realized this time, since this is the third technology company I've built, that I'm drinking from a fire hose of conversations with salespeople, managers, BDC directors, dealers, and trying to really understand everyone's needs and make sure we shape this product, this platform, into what will serve the industry best. I felt, as you know, and we live in the auto industry is a world of walled gardens. And I think that has stymied innovation in our industry, and I think it has hurt us. And I feel now is a great time to open up an architectural platform that lets anyone build on it. And that was our core goal, was two things. One, to be the data repository and open up the APIs from there, and to also offer a tool that enables all communication into a single tool. So whether it's voice, text, email, chat, doesn't matter. You can use a single platform that all that data is being gathered, rolled up, put under machine learning, and analyzed for you to make better decisions. So I think that's the biggest thing that we've been trying to achieve.
Well, Todd, thank you so much for sitting down with me today and having this conversation. I want to encourage dealers to think out of the box as margins continue to compress, as competition increases, interest rates rise, labor costs rise. The biggest opportunity for bottom line improvement is to make the workforce more efficient so that you can get more done with less people. And it's through technology, software, and as Todd mentioned, a data-first strategy, some of these labor cost savings could be realized. So if you're willing to roll up your sleeves, if you're willing to work with Todd to evolve this platform, I think the reward will be confirmed from my viewpoint is that integrated data, better decisioning, machine learning, and automation with best of class partners will always make your labor force more efficient. Todd, thanks so much for today's interview. And if this is the first time you're listening to my podcast, I release a new podcast every Monday throughout the year with some breaks for the holidays. You can just go to iTunes and look for the Pash On podcast. You could go to Libsyn, Spotify. There's so many different places for you to pick up this podcast, including my YouTube channel. So please join us each week for a new conversation. Share this with your friends, and more importantly, look forward to a great year ahead as we talk to industry leaders and innovators in the automotive industry. Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll see you next week on another podcast session.